Jordan Hendrickse is back in the box squad. He's the latest in the last week. Cammy Honeycomb in, Wilco Low in.
Woo!
Because Jan Hendrik Wessels was out, Wilco Low came in, and Grobbies came back in. The tractor, Frans Malherbe, he's gone back to Bredasdorp for a bit of R&R. A big blow. Damian Willemse worked so hard to get back.
Yeah.
Groin went. As he took that offload from Warwick Geland, you just knew instantly that's a 3 to 4 months kind of injury. Big blow for him, but it does mean Rassie will get an extended run. But the more and more I look at the Zels, it's more like the universe has spoken and kind of delivered unto us,
Yes.
given our critiques, the squad we wanted to see at the end of the year tour.
Indeed. And how nice is that? By hook or by crook, something close to the squad we would have picked has now been selected, man. It has been interesting to see Rassie replacing props with fullbacks and fullbacks with open side flankers, but we've got the guys in there, and suddenly this tour has a much more constructive feel to it because we still expect the box to sweep these European teams, but there's also a chance we come out of this having unearthed a great gem that is part of the future for the box, and that's exciting.
Well, Rassie's always got the open mind. He's always a step ahead. I did drop him a WhatsApp to say when Wilco got in and Grobbies was back in and Cam Honeycomb, thanks for listening to the universe. Thanks for picking those oaks. It reminded me of a story when Harry Falloon and Solly were coaching Western Province in 1997, and then obviously the Stormers. The year they won the Currie Cup, Harry loved Dick Muir at 12 and Percy Montgomery at 13. Solly loved Christian Stewart at 12. Percy Montgomery at 13. Obviously, they both agreed on Justin Swart at fullback. Solly being the guy he was, one of the greats to have as a coach when you're in the media, and he wanted you to debate everything. Don't take my word for it. Write about it. Let the reader decide. And I'd always say to him, 3 doesn't go into 2 when it comes to your midfield. So how do you guys reach a consensus? And he said the universe. Guaranteed, with a bit of procrastination, one of them will go down before Thursday. And I kind of shared that anecdote with Rassie, and he responded, definitely. I always tell people, don't worry, it will happen and the right selections will be made. So an open mind from the coach. You showed me a bit earlier, Andre Pollard, who's been in great form for Leicester. He was on the podcast with Ben Jans, and he's a Dan Coles.
Dan Cole, yeah.
And some interesting insights he gave to a question that Ben Jans asked him about Rassie Rasmus.
Yeah, he said Ben Young's asked him, what kind of a coach is he? The impression that you get is that he's quite a hard taskmaster and a genius. And in a roundabout way, Andre Pollard basically gave a lot of insight, I think, into the workings of the box squad behind the scenes. He said Rassie's a guy who probably doesn't know a lot about your personal life as a player, but knows where you came from because he believes that your background and where you started out and how you got to where you are through some hardships kind of gives an indication of your ability to deal with some of the ups and downs of rugby. If you've dealt with adversity in your personal life, you shouldn't have any difficulty dealing with adversity in rugby, which I thought was quite interesting. He said he's a guy who's not always around, but he understands exactly what's been going on, and he's got a great feel for the vibe, what's going on in the team environment. And he's also a guy who makes sure that everybody is kept on equal footing. So there's not necessarily a hierarchy of senior players and junior players. Everybody is held to the same standard. You have to perform to keep your place in the team. And anytime he feels like somebody's getting too big for their boots, he's seen it coming from a mile away, and he is the first guy to put everybody back in their place, reset the team. So I thought it was some really great insights. It's a good show, some great questions. And when you've got former players talking to current players in that setup, the guys are more relaxed and are more transparent, and I think give a little bit more of themselves in the answers. So it's a show worth watching.
And all the interviews I've seen with Andre in the UK, especially since he's been at Leicester, he's been very considered and articulate in how he answers. And look, he's a hell of a popular player over there. I mean, they really rate him. I think the only thing they don't like about him is that he didn't play for England, okay? But the maturity that he shows, he also gives insights back as opposed to giving a whinge back or, being a cheerleader. But the thing that was very telling from the clip that you showed me was that there is no guarantee to the senior players. in the build-up to 2027. If we go back to 2011 World Cup squad, one of the big critiques of Peter de Villiers back then was that he had guaranteed so many of the 2009 British and Irish Lions Series winners a place to the World Cup, regardless. And it showed at times in how they played, that they knew they were on the plane. Given what Andre said and what Rassie said a year ago, I don't know if Sia's going to make it. I don't know if Eben's going to make it. I'd want them to make it, were his words. Does their body allow for it? Does their mind allow for it? It's a long way away. So in that interview, and you guys must check it out. I mean, it's
well worth watching.
Yeah, it is worth watching. I mean, it's a very cool podcast as well. Is him saying that there's never a fear factor put towards the senior player.
Right.
Rassie doesn't operate by fear. He operates with honesty about your performance. And his belief is if you don't perform, there's another guy who will perform.
Spot on.
And I think that's been the messaging through to the senior players, the old dogs, the patrol dogs, that he will do the job of managing their game time, but they've still got to perform when he puts them on that field. You said there was also a very interesting thing about how he dealt with the Manie Lebok miss kick to the team and how he dealt with some senior players to the team.
So I mean, like, so you talk about you have to perform. That doesn't mean you necessarily have to be in form all the time. Manie Lebok, the miss kick against Argentina, Polly talks about how on the Monday, first thing he did was Rassie put up all the memes and jokes that were going around on the screen. He said, we're going to enjoy this. We're going to have a laugh with Manie about some of the stuff. But straight away confirmed Manie would be keeping the job. He'd be starting at 10 that week. And Andre says that's the kind of thing that just instills a lot of confidence in a player. You kind of deal with the issue. You confront it face up first thing. And then there's a show of confidence from the coach in you to go again. And then you have a cracker. So, just very, very confirmation of a lot of the stuff we know already, but also some really interesting insights into the dynamics behind the scenes and Rassie's sort of management style of the players, which I thought was great.
And listening to Polly talk and just watching his demeanor and the way he's recovered from Montpellier, where he really had a torrid 4 years over there in terms of injury. COVID had struck. I think he played something like 26 out of a possible 96 games. But been a revelation since he went to Leicester. He started more games in the first 15 months at Leicester than he did in all the time at Montpellier. I think he's comfortable in the environment. I think it's a very similar environment to what he had at the Bulls. Very similar playing styles. And you know that they back him unreservedly there. But he's a guy that reminds me of Dan Carter in that they had it all as kids in terms of under 20s. Player of the year, early international debuts, sensational, World Cup winners. But they've also went through incredible injury adversity, second guessing, array of fly-offs coming through. They were never good enough to even be spoken about in the same class as them, but that they had to basically go and prove again that they were number one. And as Carter did in the 2015 World Cup, he had that game at Eden Park where he had to produce or he wasn't going to get on the plane. He was superb. Interesting thing there is the coaches told him, Fozzie told him, just go back to being the Dan Carter that we picked many years ago. And I think if you looked at Andre Pollard in 2023 World Cup, it was the Andre Pollard that we saw come on the field as a 21-year-old. I mean, he was never going to miss those kicks. He played with such authority. He looked in such good shape. But he also seems to have accepted a changing of a role in the setup, that he's gone from being the number one player to being the number one player coach of his position. He's willing to mentor a Manie Lebok. He's willing to bring through a Jordan Hendrickson. He's willing to start the game. He's willing to come on for the last 20. And that's fabulous to see. And the way he spoke about Sasha in the early part of this international season, the joy with which he spoke about Sasha, the things he said about Tony Brown, the nuances that he's added to his game. I mean, he is so integral to the Springboks and also to the build to this next world. We talk about the Sears and the Evans, but Andre Pollard, not just from being on the field and kicking big pressure goals, just his overall demeanor and his overall leadership.
Yeah, I think that's 100% spot on. I also think it's a reflection of Rassie's coaching style, because what it shows is that Andre believes that Rassie is going to pick the best player for the job at the next World Cup. And he's at peace with that, because Andre backs himself 100%. There's no fear of, oh, he needs to be in Rassie's good books. Oh, he needs to do this. Oh, he needs to tick this box, that box. He's like, the best performer is going to play at the next World Cup. He believes he can do that job. And aside from that, he's a Springbok at heart who wants to see the Springboks win the next World Cup. So I think that management style of transparency and honesty with the players and sort of ruthlessness about we're going to do what's best for South Africa gives Andre that peace and that confidence. And he's got a track record on it. He was sitting on the couch a couple of weeks before the playoffs, and then he was the man of the moment, wasn't he? So he's done it before, and I'm sure he believes he can do it again, and I'd back him to do it again. But I think that sort of team culture that you talk about there pervades the whole team. Jesse Creel was on another interview the other day talking about how all the centers back each other. It doesn't matter who plays, they love each other, the band of brothers, all that sort of stuff. So you kind of get that's a theme that runs through the whole team from position 1 to position 23. And to your point about Andre's role as a mentor, absolutely humongous. He is a sort of tier 1, A plus blue chip player. People across the rugby world respect that guy like we respect an Owen Farrell and in those sort of positions. So I think Andre is a very key part of the next World Cup.
And he's going to be big in the 3 tests against Scotland, England and Wales. Whether he's starting, whether he's coming off the bench,
Agreed.
I think there'll be a combination of both with him and Manie Lebok going. I'm sure he's going to use both players, especially depending on the opposition. But we go back to just that tour again. We keep on lamenting that there's no island, so it's not a Grand Slam tour. Ed Norson will keep on lamenting that as well, hoping that something happens. And first week in December, they play in a festival game. And we decide who actually won that series in South Africa. 1-1 on neutral ground. Let's see who's the winner now. But Ireland, there won't be. Scotland, Wales, and England, there will be. Damian Willems fought so hard to get back and just had that outstanding effort against Munster at fly-off. Kicked everything. Just looked so involved in the first few minutes against Glasgow. Ran a perfect line for a great offload in the tackle from Warwick Holland. But as we said, we saw that just the motion, you knew it was a groin that went there. It gives him another 3-4 months, though, to recover. We know what we got in Damian, the youngest ever double World Cup winner. If he's fit, he's always going to be in the mix. He covers 15, he covers 12 primarily. In a worst-case scenario, he could play 10. And he can kick. I don't care what anyone else says. He used to kick as a schoolboy and be very good.
Yes.
He just needs that confidence. But it does allow for Rassie to not have to make that decision of benching a Fussy who's been in outrageous form. I mean, to see him score that first try against Munster for the Sharks over the weekend, that's a player who knows he's good and feels he's proven at the international stage. And the moment you've played the All Blacks in a test match and been successful, there's very little outside of that. So Fussy was the big winner, I think, from Damian's misfortune. Willie is there, mentoring, who's there and thereabouts in the mix. But over and above Fussy, Mapimpi, he's rolled back the clock by about 10 years.
He's playing his best rugby again. It's unbelievable. He was in great form against Munster, back to his best. Fantastic to see. Yeah, interesting wrinkle.
Could it be fathered?
I don't know what it is, mate. I don't know what it is. Maybe the Irish bring the best out of him. I don't know what it is.
I thought he was outstanding.
Yeah.
And not just with his pace and his finishing, but his all-round game, his awareness. And I also felt like in the last year, what had crept into his game was a lot of off-the-ball antics, a lot of off-the-ball talking to the opposition, a lot of distraction. That the verbals were flying everywhere, that he was more involved with that, with actually reading the play and all that. And with a lot of these good winners coming through, it's like the old dog said, hang on a second, I'm not going to just go away quietly.
Spot on.
And maybe we speak about what Polly said in that interview to Ben Jans, is when we question why Mapimpi on tour, why not an Edwell, why not one of the youngsters, Rassie again, 2 steps ahead. It's like, hang on a second, I'm going to reward that form. I'm going to show you if you play well, you're coming. Also, you're playing with Fussy at the moment. You bring a dimension out of him. You know, could there be a test match where we also see a Lukanya, a Fussy, and a Mapimpi, that Sharks trio, reveling? So
maybe Rassie told him, listen, bud, we're taking 35 guys on this interview tour. You like player 34 here. If I don't start Fussy at fullback, I might put him on the wing. I don't know. We're going to have to see, because you haven't been playing such great rugby. Maybe lit a fire on his arse, and that's what you get out of him. I don't know.
But I love the fact that he's playing while he's been rewarded. Fussy,
Fabulous.
wow. And he's been the breakthrough player in terms of the last few months, coming from Test rugby and into the URC. And one of the great things about the Galacticos, the big paid for players at the Sharks, is since the Challenge Cup, when they've come into this URC, when the Boks have played, the current Boks, the Sharks have looked like a Test team. They've looked like a URC top 2 finals team. And, you know, Plum was asked after the game, what has changed with the Sharks from the early start of the URC to now? And he said, the Springboks.
The Springboks are back.
The Springboks are back. And I don't think we must underestimate that, the value that the Springboks bring when they come back. But the value, if they come back and perform like Springboks, not like guys who need to get through 80 minutes to make it onto a tour or to make the next match. But looking at the squad again, and it's just a pity they're not playing this weekend. We've got to wait. We basically got to wait till next weekend before they play. The only test match this weekend, well, 2 test matches. It's England against the All Blacks and Scotland against Fiji, and we'll be watching that Scotland-Fiji one because our first game is Scotland. But looking at the squad again, and you talk about it being more balanced, irony, though, that when Wilco comes in, France is still there. Now France is out. France has been an institution there. It's a bit of a like-for-like replacement.
It's a fantastic like-for-like replacement, and I have a sneaking suspicion that if Wilco and Cam get an opportunity to play in this series or this tour in a meaningful way, that people are going to struggle to get those jerseys back from those two guys because they've waited for their chance. They were written off to begin with. They weren't part of the plans. Now they're in. And I think that they are going to play angry. They're going to take the opportunity with both hands. So I really believe Cam Hanekom has got a lot of value to offer. At open side, I don't know whether Rassie sees it the same way, whether that's where he's going to play him. And then Wilco Lowe is a one-man scrum, much like Francois Haber. In that interview with Pollard, he was talking about, even he admitted, he conceded, look, a lot of the core members of this team are going to be aged at the next World Cup. We want everybody to get there, but it's not realistic to expect that everyone will get there. And so we have to transition between now and then, bringing in youngsters without losing games because we want this consistency. So when you look at Vincent Koch, you look at Tom du Toit, and you look at Francois Haber, those guys are going to be mid-30s at the next World Cup. Wilco Lowe will be 33. That's definitely a guy that could push to start. At minimum, he could be on the bench. So it's going to this tour really is a nice not dress rehearsal, but audition for guys like that. I mean, Wilco's played 14 tests, but for him to restate his claim, we ran a poll after Cam Hanekom was snubbed from the original team, and readers overwhelmingly said, we asked, should this guy now leave South Africa, go play for Wales? Overwhelmingly, they said, no, we want this guy to stick around. We like him. Stay here, fight for your space in the box. Now he's been called in, and I think he's gonna be on fire.
And look, again, that's the competitiveness for positions, especially among the loose forwards.
Yes.
Evan Roos, 2 seasons ago, he was the rock star. Everyone was speaking about him. He eventually got his opportunity. A bit of hit and miss, some wonderful things for the Boks. Areas of the game he had to work on. Aurich Lowe the same. Aurich Lowe was then left out for a season. Evan Roos been left out for a season. Wasn't picked to go to Australia, decided to take the shoulder operation. But there were things they said, go back and work on your game. Cam Hanekom pushing, got injured, thereabouts. Ben Jason Dixon got a chance, started well, fell off a little bit, has been told to work on certain things as well. So again, you've got Peter Steph's not going anywhere at the moment, okay? You got a Jasper Visser that's going nowhere. You got a Sear that's going nowhere for the immediate 12 months. Marco van Staden is in the mix. Kwacha, who's there and thereabouts always. But the next batch that's coming through, there's no guarantee that one comes in and does it. Because the minute the next one gets a gap, they're as good. Absolutely.
And the stocks that we have, particularly in the back row, just the world's best. So we've got some really exciting youngsters coming through. And competition for places will be massively hot. Sia played 8 for the Sharks at the weekend, was very good there. He's a natural athlete, a good footballer. You could see that may have piqued Rassie's interest in a similar move, and then that creates a bit of dynamic there in terms of selections around the back.
I was actually going to ask you, but now you've actually answered it. Sia, I liked him at 8. And I just think he's feel for the game and his understanding for the game and his physicality to be there. So it could be something we see on this tour, even if it's only for 40 minutes. A Sia playing at 8.
I'd love to see that.
It reminds me a lot of Ardy at 8 as well.
Totally.
Very, very similar in their approach. and just from a leadership point of view as well, just the kind of the view he gets of the game. So,
but Theo's also a lot more athletic in terms of like his quickness. He's pretty rapid for a guy who plays in the back row. I think that gets lost sometimes with him playing at 6 and being quite direct. He's a guy, if he had to catch a deep kick, he could hurt a team on a counter.
So if we look at the squad, I mean, Robbie's obviously now definitely number 3 in terms of out-and-out hookers. Jan Hendrik is the prop hooker mix that they're looking at. But if you look at outside of the existing players who played in the Rugby Championship and won it, the form of Achia Snyman for Leinster, wow, that's what we've been expecting or wanting from him.
Yeah.
After every World Cup, when he decides to take some freakish kind of break, okay? It's like he's serving himself double brandy and cokes before he gets on the field. He's playing so well.
Yeah.
And wonderful to know that he's ours, that he's a Springbok. This isn't a guy we have to worry about playing
defecting
in the emerald green of Ireland.
Yeah.
He's one of ours, and he's a superstar, and he's there. And if you think there's a Ron Nokia that came through the ranks, we've got Eben, obviously, 128 tests, iconic, most capped test Springbok of all time, an institution. Snyman now can particularly play that role off the bench because of what Nokia's done. Because for me, Nokia's your starter, more so than a Snyman a starter and a Rowan coming off the bench. You talk about that bomb squad then, if you start bringing Achia Snyman back into it, with the greatest respect to any other lock that's played off the bench for South Africa this season, there's no one who could provide that kind of impact.
Yeah, I think we are forgetting about one guy who is an absolute demon, and the very core of that tight 5 is Sos. Sos is back in the mix, and if Sos gets back to anything near the quality of play that he had before he got injured, and he gets a sniff, Ruan Nokia might come back home at the end of this tour as very much a squad player and not a starter. So Ruan Nokia has got to deliver his best. Achia Snyman, I love him playing off the bench, and certainly until Achia Snyman shows a level of durability that we can trust him to be the starter, I'm very happy for them to invest in a Ruan Nokia and to give him a chance to fight Sos for that 5 jersey. So we've got an abundance. It's almost unfair. The wealth of talent we have at lock, it's just ridiculous.
But doesn't it, if you look at this makeup of this box setup and you look at the potential 23 that they can pick, we did the Rugby Championship 5 from 6. The only game we lost by a point, and we could have won it with a penalty opportunity with a minute to go. But we did it without Achia Snyman. We did it without Franco Marston. We did it without 2 superstar forwards that are so instrumental to our famed bomb
lock
squad.
Injuries the list was long and distinguished.
So just adding them back in the mix.
Totally.
Just seeing the kind of destructive presence that a Wilco Low could bring. Like, look, no one disputes Frans Malherbe. He's the number 1 because of his all-round game and all that. And I know the big thing that Rassie about Wilco was work rate defensively. What can he do? Could he fit into the way they play? But it's reward for the way he's just basically, with Gerard Steenekamp, the two have combined, but him on that tight head side, I mean, he's really brought back that love for, you want that scrum, that first scrum. It's like an anticipation when the Bulls play.
No, man.
You want to see what he does.
I mean, when I saw him get shot out the back of the other team's scrum, just the way he was driving through like that, he is an absolute wrecking ball. And maybe, I think we've been spoiled a bit with Frans Malherbe because that guy's work rate is absolutely ludicrous. I think it was when he was in the under-21s at Province, at tight head prop, he was cleaning like 40 rucks a game. Like, his work rate is phenomenal. You look at him, you think he's a bit of a tubby bloke who waddles around the pitch, but for his size, the output from Frans Malherbe is significant. And I'm not sure whether Wilco Low can match him in that department, but certainly in the scrummaging department, he is an absolute monster. And I'm very much looking forward to what happens in Bok training when Wilco Low has to sort of scrimmage against Tom du Toit, who I assume now is the third choice loosehead. I think the competition is going to be really intense.
But just think of it. Just think of a Bok pack that is a starting pack of a Wilco Low. I'm talking scrumming power now. Bongi, Ox, Eben, Ergia or Sos.
Yeah.
Peter Steff, Sia and Jasper. I'm talking that set piece.
That's insane. It's insane.
And then you look to your left, if you're the opposition, and you see what's coming on. Vincent Koch, Malcolm Marx, again, an Archia potential off the thin, abundance of loose forwards.
What other country in the world has 3 or 4 injuries and they get stronger?
No, it's just unbelievable. So, wow. Every day brings better news about this box setup because we don't know who else is going to be drafted in next week. They're still in Jersey. There's still 10 days to go. The selection that pleased me as well is the one of Jordan Hendrickse. I had a fear that he would be basically cast away after that opening test against Wales. We didn't play badly. He kicked 3 from 4. But a young guy came on Sasha and just stole the show. And you just wondered, is this basically, there's Marnie, there's Andre, and obviously there's Sasha.
Yeah.
Sia was playing well for the Sharks at 10. You just wondered, is this guy basically, you got to go to France, man, and make your career, and you got to maybe wish that you one day never went and played that one test for South Africa, and you could have played maybe 20 for another country.
Yeah.
But his form at the Sharks since they played him at 15. He was involved. He was physical. He backed himself. Again, his ability, a bit like a Jan Frans Steyn, to kick 60-meter penalties, big ones. When they put him back to 10 for the last 2 games, he's really looked like that under-20 player that owned that position a bit. And I think it's great that he's been drafted in.
Yeah, totally. Is that the position that you feel like Jordan is going to settle into? Is that his preferred position for you?
Yeah, I think it's a 10.
As a 10
I think it's
for
a
the
10
box.
and an out-and-out 10. And again, people forget how young these guys are. They're 22, 23. We always talking about guys, when we compare the greats, invariably we're looking at what they've done by the time they're 27 or 28. And I think the one thing we need to learn as a rugby public is to also appreciate and have patience, that they're going to play some poor games, they're going to make some poor decisions, but their natural fit and ability, and the more they're involved in that environment, and what you want going into a World Cup over those 3-4 year periods of build-up, you want to say there's a potential 5 in each position that you could pull in to a World Cup squad, because there's never a guarantee that someone's not going to go down first week of the World Cup, a month before the World Cup, and then you can't have that kind of panic. So if I look at just the fly-off position has been one, we know what we got in Sasha now. We know the best of what Marnie can do. We also know where his vulnerabilities are. We know what we got in Polly. We now are going to start seeing a bit more within the system of a Jordan Hendrickse. And then for the 5th fly-off position, it has to be there. Is it a Faf? Is it a Cheslin? Or is there something to play for the likes of Sia and one or two others in the South African setup? So I just love that his selection is there.
It's a great
It's
call.
been honest to who he's picked. And when I look at what he's now got on tour, outside of Ethan Hooker, who's injured, right now, is there anyone that you think has been done a disservice?
I mean, I don't know what's left in the tank in terms of forcing selections here. I don't want anyone else to get injured, but if we could just stretch the squad to 36, I would love to see Davy Creel get on the plane and go on this tour, because that kid, if you want a Swiss Army knife in the back line, he can do everything, and his floor is high and his ceiling is high. So you're always going to get a 7 out of 10 with Davy, and I think you can get up to a 9 out of 10 with that guy. So I think he's a really quality player. And Jordan Hendrickse kind of fits into a similar mold there, probably more X-factor and a higher ceiling, but also a very versatile player. What I like about Jordan Hendrickse potentially being a fullback is it takes goal-kicking pressure off whoever we pick at 10. Having a second goal kicker in the backline who is a goal kicker, not a guy we're pretending is a goal kicker, I think it would be massive. Because on the days where you want to play Marnie for his playmaking ability, there is no heat on him to be the goal kicker. This is a guy who's proven he can bang it over from 60 meters with his eyes closed. So I think there's utility value there. I think Jordan may be pushing Gaza for that utility role, bench/starter, 10-15. I can totally see him making a run at that.
I don't think anyone pushes Gaza when he's fully fit.
He's about 12.
But he's in the 23. It doesn't really matter where he's going to be. So, but I hear you talk about versatility value. Another one I just want to throw into the mix, looking at URC form. And I know I've been hugely critical of him only because I've always expected so much more of him. But I thought Andre the Giant stood up against Munster and announced himself.
Yeah.
I thought his carries were strong, he was dominant, and he just looked comfortable. Question there.
Go.
He's got a very physical 10 on his inside who takes the ball close to the line, puts him just that little bit closer in the offload, and gives him that advantage. He looks a lot more comfortable outside Jordan Henschler than he has at other times playing outside 10s like Seal or Kerwin Bosch.
Yeah, I think you spoke.
And that may be unfair.
No. I think you're 100% spot on, but I also think you spoke about the value of the box coming back to the Sharks and the input there. It's not only physical, it's tactical. So I think the decision making around how the Sharks are playing, I think the Sharks were very direct, and I think they were also benefiting from the fact that they played a Munster team that was running low on resources in the front row. That pack rolled Munster. And I think if you're a 110 kilogram inside centre behind a winning pack going downhill into that contact, I think you're in a good place.
So the Sharks, with all their box back, 41-24 winners against Munster. They were 24-5 up after 25 minutes. They had the bonus point in the bag. Very important game for them to win with that full complement of box back. The next time they play is the 30th of November. It's going to be against the Stormers in Durban. Should be a cracker, South African derby. A lot of those Sharks will have come off tour, though, which is a very different dimension. Having been on tour, potentially have all been involved in 3 test matches, now to pick themselves up to be reintegrated back into the URC. Next weekend, it's the box against Scotland. It's a full round of international matches up north. We've spoken at length about the box squad. We want to know what you think about the changes.
Yes.
If you think it makes the box stronger, we think it does. And that's not a disrespect to the players who've got injured. In terms of the overall balance of what they want to achieve on this tour, it really has added a youthful dynamic to it.
Yep.
And a lot of excitement. And we're absolutely confident it's going to be 3 from 3.
Here we go.
When they go on tour. And we do that without ever seeing the match 23s of the box and the opposition. We don't need hindsight to know that it should be 3 from 3. We're backing it because it's always box by 10.
Why are you wearing your Scotland jumper
box
there,
by
eh?
10. I'm not wearing that. I'm wearing my nice navy blue. Okay? My nice navy blue. Sacks. Never Scotland.
Yeah.
Sacks, okay? URC, right?
URC.
Elon Musk, URC.
Okay.
USA. Before we get to the URC, great giveaways. We're going to give away so much over the next few weeks. You just got to go onto our WhatsApp channel. I think we're close to 20,000 subscribers.
Growing.
So thank you. There'll be competitions there. The competition for this week is going to be England against New Zealand. It's going to be a score predictor. Go onto the WhatsApp channel. All the instructions are there. Correct score, and you get a wonderful hamper from the Boer and Butcher. It's going to be biltong and wine for this week. And then the following weeks, it's going to be biltong and beer.
Yes, and don't hang around because it's the person who correctly predicts the score first. So get your picks in early.
Thanks for that, man. And then Salyu City, we're going to start giving away a massive hamper from next week onwards, a value of 21,000 Rand in terms of product and goodies. Thanks to Gavin Gelnas from that. Not applicable for this week, but only from when the box stop playing next week. So great prizes, and there'll be more prizes. Prizes like signed jerseys, that's kind of things that you like. Visit the WhatsApp channel and you'll see why. URC, 5 matches played. We put it on pause for a while. The first section of a marathon that has been run. I keep on reminding people, 21 matches to win this league. 18 in regular season. And then you've got to go quarterfinal, semi-final, and final. You've got to play 21. You've got to be coming out at the end victor on number 21.
Yeah.
It's a hell of a long way to go. So don't write off anyone now and don't anoint anyone now. Stormers 2 from 5. In the inaugural season, they were 1 from 5. Munster were 1 from 5 in the second season when they won it. Glasgow were then that they lost 5 matches on way to getting to a final, and they had to play away in a final, a semi-final and a final to win it. So let's be realistic about where each team is positioned, but let's not also think it's doom and gloom for the one and it's glory days for the other. I've been particularly impressed with the Lions. 4 from 5 Zels.
Yep.
4th on the table at the moment, and they've already gone to Dublin, played Leinster, and kind of came out there with a lot of street cred.
Yes.
The Bulls, 4 from 5. They should have been 5 from 5.
Agreed.
Thanks to poor officiating that they killed them overseas. But also 3 away games in that 5.
Bingo.
Sharkies 3 from 5. Most important, they won back-to-back at home. And the Stormers 2 from 5. Also 2 wins away from home. 1 win away from home. But a lot of critique around their performance against Glasgow. They were 17-14 up with 20 minutes to go. A lot of justification in the critique, but a lot of silliness in the critique as well, because they lost against the team who are the defending champions. They lost against a team who are currently second on the log, only to Leinster. So let's put that into perspective. But if I can have your report card, mate, on an analysis of our 4 South African teams, where you see them positioned now, and where you see it going post the end of November.
Okay, let's go alphabetically then. So I'm going to say Bulls. I've absolutely enjoyed their season. They've definitely, there were times in the last season or two where you saw the names on paper and the performances just didn't match the quality of those players, and that's changed. I think that they're getting the mix of what they're doing tactically right, and I just want to big shout out to Keegan Johannes, who had to step in at fly half, had an absolute crack over game, looked like a natural specialist fly half, kicked some points. Davy Creel was in the mix as well on the scorecard, and the Bulls found a way to win at a place that is traditionally a very tricky banana peel for a lot of teams, specifically them. So, yeah, very, very, very good from the Bulls. They're in a tight spot on their schedule in terms of their away-home run. And I think they've made the most of it in terms of how they've performed overseas so far.
But they're also a team that doesn't go away. And previous Bulls teams may have fallen a little bit at 15-10, away from home.
Bingo.
Tough, tricky conditions. They were never going away. And like you said, they banked on their traditional forward strength. And then upstairs, Davy Creel to show he's got many, many strings to that bow.
Bingo.
Or many arrows. What's the thing?
Yeah, lots of, I don't know.
Bows
to that
Bows,
arrow.
yeah, whatever. He can
strings
kick,
to his
he
harp.
can kick, he can pass, he can tackle, he can run.
Yeah.
And he's a very gifted footballer. Yeah. So he gets, I mean, he's been one of the big breakthrough players in terms of his maturity. And what I do find about those Bulls guys is they are owning their space. Uckert again coming in and showing the value of a player who may not necessarily be in the box mix, but could actually still go and do a job for the box.
Totally. 100%. There's a guy who, right here, right now, is among the best hookers in the country, I would say. And his value to the Bulls is humongous. So kudos to the Bulls, finding a way to win despite some disruptions in their selections. Keegan Johannes, I think, is a very underrated player. I think there's a couple of places, I mean, because the Bulls are pretty well stocked at scrum off with Ambrose and with Zuckberger. If I was looking for a scrum off, if I was a team that was scrum off needy, that's a guy I would definitely look at. I think he's quality.
Message to Jake.
Congratulations. That's great. It's fabulous. Jake's doing a great job. They've had lots of adversity. Those red cards could have destabilized the team. He's used it to galvanize them, and they are South Africa's best team.
Is he answering your WhatsApps again?
He is, mate.
Okay, that's good to know. Good to know. Okay, alphabetically we go Lions, eh?
Lions, man.
There's your spawn.
Yes, so.
The Brul.
Ilius.
Yes, Robbie Wessels.
Those guys.
Those guys can play, eh?
I'm telling you, they can play some rugby, those guys. That first 40 minutes, mate, at the Aviva, they did the whole light show there. The Irish were out there ready to lynch them. Just that first 40 minutes was spectacular. They're a really well-coached team, organized structurally, clever tactically, and don't stand back for anybody, don't have respect for anybody. They ran out of puff. They were just outgunned. I mean, they were playing well above themselves in the second half. They were outgunned, but denied Leinster a bonus point victory at home, and were right in there. They were in the lead at one point in the game. So
also, third game on tour. Fifth game?
Yeah.
In as many weeks. But
yeah,
important that they went out and they made a
statement.
They made a statement in terms of respect and credibility. Yeah?
Big time, big time. What I'm very much on the Ntlabakanye train. I will say that conditioning is something perhaps he needs to work on, because he adds massive value as a scrummager, carries well, loves to crunch a oak in a tackle, but his breakdown work he could contribute a bit more there. So it'd be good to see him get a bit better conditioned. I don't know if that means losing a bit of weight, but I think in Tlabakanya, if he's serious about trying to break into that green jersey, he probably needs to up the production a bit around the breakdown.
Message to Cash?
Mate, doing a great job. Keep rolling, keep the hot dogs flowing.
And here in Cape Town, we love you guys.
Love you,
We
Lions.
love you. The Lions. We love the way you're playing.
Send us a jersey. I want a Lions jersey. I want to wear a Lions jersey on the show once. Come
All
on,
right.
Cash, send one through.
There's Zels. He wants something. He wants to wear a Lions jersey.
Yeah, I like the Lions.
So if he wears a Lions jersey, I'll be forced to wear my Stormers jersey.
Of course you will. You've got it on right now.
I
man.
have indeed.
Tell the viewers.
Hey? In good and bad times, I wear that Stormers jersey.
It stops just above his belly button.
It's a tank top. It used to be a onesie. Now it's a tank top. So, okay. If we go alphabetical order,
Sharks.
Sharky's number 3.
Yeah, look, they got tons of talent there. We've mentioned the Galacticos. And they've mixed that talent with guys like Jordan Hendrickson who are thriving on that platform of experience, and quality. So I think the Sharks are, because of that depth, I think that they are a team that can definitely go deep into the competition, are less vulnerable to an injury or two than some other sides. How the Sharks are paying for all these players, I don't know, but it's fabulous. They've got an amazing lineup there. And I think 9th is too low for a team of that quality on paper, and I think we're going to see them push to climb. So,
all right. And then finally, our local homeboys, Stormers, 13th on the table, 2 from 5. Fine margins. They turn at the break at 3 from 5. And they're in a good place, 2 from 5. Everyone is panicking. What's going to happen with them? The reality is 17-14 up against the defending champions. My personal view, I thought they should have backed themselves to score the try at 14 all. Or at least kept field position. They got Glasgow right back into an attacking zone for Glasgow, and then they scored that try.
Yeah.
But there's many ifs and buts from that game. But there is also a reality of who they don't have at the moment and who they do have. Damian Willemse, superstar, gone. And we see how good he's been since he's been there. We look at the other injuries. Now Ben Jason Dixon's injured as well. They haven't had Kitsy. They haven't had Dion Fourie.
Frans Malherbe.
Frans Malherbe's now out. It's just one of those years, and they've been fairly fortunate in the first 3 years in the URC in that the injuries haven't come en masse. John Plumtree made the point. The difference to being top 4 in this competition and fighting for 8th place is your Springboks.
Totally, 100%.
And you put all those Springboks in that Stormers mix consistently, they get the winning performances.
Totally. I think the Stormers specifically, we saw how Kitsy and Malherbe put them in position to win the championship. And key to their game is creating pressure through set piece to control field position. And then when the bad kicks come from that pressure, as teams try to take some of that pressure off, then Galant and the dancers cut people to pieces. And right now what they've got is Galant and the dancers, but playing without that tailwind of the pressure that pack creates. So that scrum is something that they're going to have to find a solution for life without Frans Malherbe and Steven Kitshoff until those guys are back in the mix. Losing a Ben Jason Dixon doesn't help. And then Dobbo showed a lot of faith in the likes of Kiki Marabi, Marcel Tennyson, and those guys really need to come to the fore now to pick up the slack so that they go forward and those backs can shine. Because you can have, the Brumby showed us, you can have the best backs in the world without go forward. It's very difficult to make things happen.
But I mean, for also to give context, and it's certainly not an excuse. It's just a fact. 1, Kitsy, not there. 3, Frans Malherbe, not there. These were guys that Dobbo would have banked on to play certain games.
Yeah.
Salman Marat, captain, not there.
Yeah.
4 lock. Dion Fourie, not there.
Yeah.
Evan Roos, not there.
Yeah.
BJ Dixon, now injured. That's 6 of your pack.
Totally.
Now you take them out, and then you don't have a Damian Willemse, you don't have a Sasha.
Yep.
It makes for one hell of a different Stormers look to what the coach would have had up front in the beginning of the season.
Totally.
And while injury is a part and parcel of the game, you don't expect to lose those 8 players in one go.
I think going forward, you're going to see a guy like Ruan Nal play a much more integral role. I think he's going to have to lead this team from 13 in a way. And they're going to have to back their defense, which is of the best levels. So I think then you may see them downscale a bit how they play with the guys that are left over to contest in the absence of these injured guys. and maybe that brings the best out of some of the veteran players that remain, like Ruan Nel.
All right, so they are 13th, the Sharks are 9th, the Bulls, they're in 3rd, and the Lions are 4th. To have two teams in the top 4, and they're not the Sharks and the Stormers, that's just great for our game, because the Lions traditionally languishing down bottom half of the table, and I keep on saying they've played away games already. We've got a lot of home games to go, and we've seen how important those home games are.
Plus, we've got a game in hand on everybody. I mean, that's South Africa's position on the log. They started the competition a week early, so we still got to catch up.
So if you look holistically at the first segment of a 3-phase league of the URC, very healthy in terms of a national view.
Definitely.
Of these South African
South
teams.
Africa's in a great position, yeah.
And they can only, the Stormers, you'd like to think, can only get a little bit stronger in terms of their positioning because of home games, potential of players coming back. The Sharks, we know, once those Boks are there, they win more than they lose. And then obviously the Bulls you got to fancy again. They've been the most consistent. And then the Lions are really hard just coming through. Cash, he made a lot of big statements, but he is cashing those checks. Eh?
Yeah, I mean, in Cash's defense, he's coaching a team that doesn't have Springboks. You know, he's making steak out of bully beef here. So, you know, I love the Lions, and I hope that they can continue this form, but my expectations for them are certainly lower than probably for the other 3 teams.
All right, so we are proudly South African here. We always say 4 from 4, por favor, in the URC. For the most times, we've been close. It was 2 from 4 over the weekend. We were hopeful, but we didn't have conviction in that the Lions could actually ever win in Dublin. But we were hopeful they'd be competitive. They were. We were confident the Stormers could win in Stellenbosch. 13,000, incredible crowd there.
The vibe was amazing on TV, mate.
And then a credit then to Glasgow to actually go there and win the game. I actually watched that game with Gil at Bossa in Burgundy.
We're better than that.
In the northern suburbs of the Western Cape. And then I watched the Sharks after that. And I must tell you, it is one of the coolest establishments to go watch games. Place for the kids to do everything.
Big open area outside,
and outside of watching the games, the people watching is just outstanding.
Really?
Yeah, it's like a different URC game. Every 3 hours there's a different crowd coming in.
Okay.
So there's a crowd that comes in to watch the game, then there's the crowd that's having some parties there, and then there's a crowd that comes in for dinner. And apparently they open till 3 in the morning. Eh?
What?
Yeah, baby. So they start early in the morning, open till 3 in the morning. But Bossa Burgundy, the food, just amazing. I had snails, calamari, burger, hake, plenty of Jägermeisters.
How long were you there, mate?
We were there for 2 games, okay? We're there for 2 games. We're there for 2
you
games.
try everything on the menu.
There for 2 games, and the beautiful thing is, little Pikey could be with a granny 1K down the road. So that was just, it was a lovely way to spend a Saturday. I would like to have gone out to Stellenbosch, but I would have been there just in a working phase. This way it could be social and work, and I got to do everything. So if you're going to be anywhere, if you're going to find me anywhere during the Bok test matches, you may find me at Boston Burgundy just enjoying some Jägermeisters and lots of good food. And I may say hello to you as the Bok are going to win. We are proudly South African. We love everyone who tunes into us. Thanks for the support on the WhatsApp channel. Zelzy, we always ask people to just drop us a line. Let us know where you're watching from. We've got some amazing places. And each time we say, we'll give a little shout out. You picked a few there.
Yeah, I picked 5 guys. We got a shout out from Peter Buerta in Barcelona.
Barcelona with Tony.
Barcelona.
Yeah, Barcelona.
Hey.
Barcelona 4, Real Madrid 0.
Stevie Worth in Moscow.
Stevie Worth, eh?
Yeah.
Was he at Bricks?
We got Mikael Freeman in Nova Scotia, that's Canada. Marlon from St. John's in Newfoundland, also Canada. And then Ali Braid from Tenerife, the Canary Islands, mate.
Wonderful. And there's always Jean-Andre Gilbert from Brackenfell. And I mean, he keeps on sending us in where he is, our wonderful social media manager. Be kind to that guy, because he's the guy who also turns that little...
he decides where the brandy's going.
He decides where the brandy's going. He decides where the Bolton's going. He decides where the jersey's going.
And he decides if you're in or out in cricket.
Exactly. He's an umpire of note. You don't want to be around when he's there doing T20s in the Western Cape. It's been fabulous chatting, Rugger. This is our show for the week. We've got to call the All Blacks against England. We've got to call it on kind of a hint of who they're both going to pick.
Piece of cake, mate.
we've got to call Scotland, Fiji as well. And Money Man will give you an update closer to the time. You've got to go to his page on the Thursday or Friday closer to the game. We will on our WhatsApp channel also give an updated little shout out and a call if we think it's necessary once we see the match 23s. But for now, Zels, where is your money going on eBets? Where's your heart going in terms of result, and what are your two scores?
Scotland are going to beat Fiji, mate, and they're going to beat them by 12 points.
Give me a scoreline, and now you've got to do your math.
Okay, I'm going to say 26-14 to Scotland. 26. That's my score. And then, you're not going to like this one, mate, but the All Blacks are going to start this tour with the win. They're going to win at Twickenham.
They're going to win by how much?
They're going to win by 3 whole points, mate. 3 whole points. It's going to be pouring with rain. I actually haven't looked at the weather, so I don't know this. It's going to be pouring with rain, and they're going to win 22-19.
Are you playing Fantasy League already?
That's what I'm doing, mate.
So you say 22-19?
22-19, mate.
Do you know the last time the All Blacks were at Twickenham, they were 25-6 up with 9 minutes to go?
Mate, what is history?
Well, history is something we reflect on to learn from.
Ooh. A prepared answer. Look at you.
Look, who's this guy? Who's this guy? 25-6, 71 minute. Beauden Barrett gets given a yellow card. And
mate, you need some sleep.
25 all. And the All Blacks hanging on to actually secure the draw. And the big thing that day was England got a penalty on their own 10-meter line on the 81st minute, and they tapped it and kicked it out, and they settled for the draw, which told you something about the mindset. When they went down to New Zealand now under Steve Borthwick, 16-15 the opening test in, I think it was Dunedin, was a cracker, and then they went back to Eden Park, and it was the All Blacks hanging on to secure a test match win and a series win. I think England is a better team than the All Blacks. The guys at the breakdown don't think so. They've got the All Blacks to win nearly everything on tour. I love the confidence of the Kiwis. They forget yesterday's result. You know, they felt they would come here and win both in South Africa as well, except for Mills. He was a bit of a realist. But I've got England to win, and I've got England to win 26-20.
Really?
By 6 points, yeah.
Really? I was on the England train until Stewie Barnes came out and said, Beauden Barrett's over the hill. Cam Roygaard, Beauden Barrett at the halfbacks. They're going to smash him by 3 points.
Smash him by 3 points. 22-19 Zels has got for the All Blacks. I've got 26-20 for England. It pains me to call an England win against anyone.
I don't know, mate. You're doing it with quite a big smile on your face.
It pains me to call England win against anyone. And I've got...
You said Fiji.
Scotland the Brave to knock over Fiji 33-15. Duan van der Merwe to score a couple. And we'll claim that one as the first South African victory for the weekend. It's going to be a great month of November. Test match rugger. The box play 3 test will be 3 from 3. 3 van 3. Bokke. Box by 10 every time. But there's going to be some fantastic matches. The Wallabies, they're on a Grand Slam tour. We'll call it the Grand Sham tour. They're not going to win a game. Yeah. We know that. I've got the All Blacks to win against Italy in the last one and lose all 3 on the trot. It's just going to be fantastic. But in between, there's a lot of injuries, a lot of rugger. And we've got one final little message. Because it's going to be a long week with no rugby. What do you say, Ricky?
Hey, Ricky says nothing except enjoy the rugby. Make the most of this occasion. And remember, the Springboks always win.